Remember when Tim Walz was running to be vice president of the country?
Yes, I do. I do remember.
People like that. So there's still a lot of post-mortem analysis of the election, and he continues to interview with people. You guys, he used the word flex to describe the fact that he's poor, that he's middle class. And he was saying to this interviewer, as he's still trying to figure out how in the world he and Kamala lost, he said, well, I thought it was a really big flex that I don't make a lot of money. And he's just like, how could that not have snowed people into voting for me? That's his rationale. But I think he's starting to get it a little bit. Here he is in this ridiculous interview.
Thought it was a real flex when the Wall Street Journal pointed out that I might have been the least wealthy person to ever run for vice president. And I thought that would be something people say, well, this guy knows where we're coming from. He's had to pay his bills. He had to do, and still does. We've got to figure it out. And I feel like one of my roles is going forward here is figuring out a way to make the case to the public, the American public, is that the Democratic Party really is focused on the things they care about. And in this case, they didn't, they thought and it might be true, not enough focus was put on inflation and the costs that those brought to people. Understanding that immigration and border control does matter to people, and it doesn't mean that you're cruel or you don't care. And I think that's something that, in the 90 days I was out there, we apparently didn't make that connection strongly enough.
Nope, he didn't. And also, I don't think he's made the connection that he was used. They choose people. The Democrats, we choose our people. They actually choose candidates for their people. The Democrats do. And they just plucked him out because they're like, he's going to play a role. He's going to because it's all just a big skit for them. And so he's like, well, this is the guy, this Tim Walz guy. We're going to dress him up in camo, even though he's totally doesn't belong in it. He's going to be like
Elmer. Real flex.
Yeah, Elmer was a real flex. He sounded ridiculous when he said that.
I know.
He has no idea how used he was. Totally used. Same with Kamala.
He is starting to understand it a little, I guess. But there's more people that don't understand it. And actually, one of those people was on the CNN panel. Bakari Sellers was on the panel with Scott Jennings. And they were talking about, I think it was inflation and the causes of inflation. And Bakari Sellers accused Scott Jennings of just being flat wrong or lying about his position. And he went to touch his arm. And Scott Jennings was like, don't touch me. And I think Bakari thought he was just playing around. He was like, oh, what? I can't touch you. But when you look at Scott Jennings' face, I think he just really didn't want to be touched. He was being completely serious. So this is kind of an amazing clip to watch. Check it out.
Democrats did not do a good job in telling our story. We did not do a good job of addressing the pain that Americans felt. We said one of the mistakes we made throughout Biden's campaign was saying, Biden's presidency was saying that inflation was transitory. Those things were not accurate because there are people who were out there feeling the pain of the price of eggs, feeling the pain of the price of whiting, like my dad at Piggly Wiggly. Those things were real. What Scott was not accurate about, which kind of happens around the table sometimes, although I know you want to be.
Don't touch me.
I can't touch you.
All right, everybody keep your hands to yourselves at the table.
All right, but one of the things Scott was not accurate about, there was a reason why we have inflation in the first place. This is not Joe Biden's policy.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
This is. It's
sure
actually,
it is. Of course it is.
It's actually no. Of course it's not.
Putting
Because
$2
you know
trillion
what?
in the.
Do you know what? Do you know why did we put
government spending on top of?
But why did that
COVID
happen?
spending?
But why did?
You know what, though, Mock? He would let you touch him. He would.
I would never tell him that he was wrong.
I know. And you would pet more than you would touch. It wouldn't be like a abrupt touch. It would be more of a nice soft touch, right? Little pat.
But did you see the face?
Yeah, he
did not want to be touched.
He was like, you're going to pull back a nub is what you're going to do.
Right.
Don't be touching me.
Well, and there's more people that understand the post-mortem analysis. Van Jones, of course, has always been one of the more reasonable lefties, if that's a thing. And he was on Chris, I never pronounced his last name right. Is it Saliza or Cizilla? Or
I don't care.
Silazilla or
None of
something?
Us, we don't. We'll just call him Chris.
Okay, Chris. He was on Chris's show, and Van Jones was saying the things, and he's got it figured out.
Donald Trump figure out the mainstream media is the fringe, and the fringe is now the mainstream. How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes? How did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it was a movement. Look,
heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen.
Yeah.
And Barron.
Everybody keeps, I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that, how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary people.
You're totally right.
He's so squirmy. He's like, you're totally right. Oh my God. I can't deal with the fact that you're right. Oh God. So freaked out about it. Yeah. He doesn't like that Van is completely right and Van has self-awareness. I will give him all the credit for his self-awareness.
Right? Yeah, he's got it. He definitely has it. And I think by the end of that, Chris Zilla also got it. Whatever his name is.
Yeah. So there's two. We have two of them who get it.
There we go.
The rest of them are still going to be in denial, and I'm okay with it.
You guys, if you're looking for your kind of online pharmacy, we have just the place for you. allfamilypharma.com/chicks. If you want to get reliable medications, treatments, they have everything to cover flus, COVID, even cancer support, general wellness. They've got everything either packaged into like kits, if you like a kit to be prepared for any potential illness, or if you know specifically, I want to have ivermectin on hand, I want to have hydroxychloroquine on hand, I want to have albuterol on hand. You can get individual medicines however you want to do it. That's what makes allfamilypharma.com/chicks so freaking handy. And you can use code CHICKS10 to get 10% off of your entire order, no matter what you decide to order, whether it's an emergency kit or whether it's one medicine or a bunch of different medications. Take control of your health. Don't go to urgent cares when you know you just have, some sort of bacterial infection that you can easily just take antibiotics for, that you can get from allfamilypharma.com/chicks. And again, that's code CHICKS10 to get that 10% discount. Well, there are some too that aren't just figuring out, okay, Trump is a cultural phenomenon. Okay, those two got it. But there's also Democrats out there who are sick and tired of being lied to. And Stephen A. Smith, who we cannot stand,
total jerk.
He's a mean jerk of a man.
Mm-hmm.
But he remember how like last week we talked about the fact that it turns out there were some FBI informants in the J6 crowd, even though that was named a conspiracy theory when it was first talked about. Stephen A. Smith saw that report and he is pissed.
News of the report, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance posted the following on X, quote, "For those keeping score at home, this was labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory months ago," end quote. Didn't hear anything about that for the election. Didn't hear anything about that when the quote-unquote insurrection was broached by Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. The belief that Donald Trump was a danger to democracy and using this as a profound, illuminating bullet point to make that case. And now here we are yet again finding even more evidence to Donald Trump's claims when he articulated that the process is rigged. My big issue is that I'm really, really sick and tired of every time I turn around finding something else that the Democrats have lied about or downplayed or misrepresented along the way. I mean, I see Republicans like Megyn Kelly or Officer Tatum or Candace Owens or, you know, the Sean Hannitys of the world. You know what I'm getting tired of? You know what I'm getting to the Democratic Party? You know what I'm getting really pissed off about?
Uh-oh.
I'm getting really ticked off at every time they open their mouth about something pertaining to y'all, they seem right to make the case that the right had a monopoly on insidious, evil tendencies, corrupt tendencies, duplicitous, hypocritical, untruthful tendencies. And every time they made those accusations, we turn around and find out that at least some of them are guilty of the same shit.
Well, I mean, if you could think critically, Stephen, you would have known this years ago. Sorry.
God. He's
It's like,
just now
welcome-
figuring out the government
Right.
lies.
Welcome to the party, pal. God,
Right?
we've only been like telling you this for 15 years. I
Oh
swear
my
these people.
gosh.
I want to like go, that's great that he's like just figuring this out, but what a dumbass.
I know.